What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 361 of Opinions May Vary. I'm your host, JR. My co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
It's wet and slushy and gross. Because New England, we have a really fun episode for you today. We do have guests. They're just not here yet. We have like a couple things going on.
We've already had them.
We're cheating.
And it was pretty good.
Yeah, we're cheating. We're this is post. We've already talked to them. We know how it went. It went great. So we're very excited about it. So we have a couple people coming on. We're going to get to them in just a second. If you're looking for D&D content, maybe some role-playing content, and also maybe some Kickstarter content, this is going to be the episode for you. So we're going to dive right into it with our first guest. Check it out. All right, and first up in this episode of Kickstarting Amazingness, we have a returning guest, someone who almost 2 years ago, I believe, it was June of 2017, so we're coming up on 2 years. This gentleman blew us away, actually blew Alex away multiple times, and I got my own mind blown when we were talking about it last time. But we have Drew Meger from the Corey Press back. Drew, thank you so much for coming back on.
Hey, thank you for having me back, guys. This is great.
Absolutely. For newer listeners or for people who haven't heard Drew's original episode, go to episode 273. Go check that out. It was a lot of fun. But
about that.
Yeah.
We really lucked out. In my
we've made a career out of lucking out.
in my negligence, I thought we were just talking to an artist. And then I find out we're talking to a scholar, and like he working in the library, and so much that Drew knew, and it blew me away. It's like, oh, we're just going to talk about carving stuff, and then he's cracking all these jokes and pronouncing impossible names.
We learned a lot that week.
And one of my favorites, I put it in our year-end best of clip, was how Nyarlathotep, you had said, I practiced that, by the way.
Okay.
And you had said, I believe you said it's based on one of the great plagues of one of the ages of Europe. And you go, but that doesn't narrow it down very much.
Right.
Because there's so many.
And I was like, that is a joke not everyone's going to really appreciate, but I loved it. So we're really happy to have you back on.
Good. It's great to be back.
Let's get down to business. We're talking Kickstarters today. We got a couple projects that we're trying to hype up for people. You have one going. According to Kickstarter, it says first create. Is this your first one that you've ever done?
This is my first one that I've ever done.
First one. What it's called?
First one.
What happened at Wyvern Rock? What do you have going, Drew? What's going on with this Kickstarter?
This is my attempt to bring the world of high strangeness, so that's UFOs, Men in Black, Missing Time, alien abduction, that sort of thing, to the world of high fantasy. When I first heard about this Zine Quest Kickstarter sort of initiative, I was struck by the common use of zines in both the development of wargaming and role-playing games, and also of the spread of ufology and sort of the advent of what we now consider the popular alien abduction and all that. Both of these things were developed from small groups that had slight access to maybe like a mimeograph machine, and they would desperately get together to put out different letters and brochures about what their group was up to. And that's the way that sort of the early conversations about both ufology and role-playing games, that's how it all began. Obviously there's no internet or anything like that for people to talk with each other. So instead you would be, finding excuses to stay after work at night at your job that has a mimeograph. You run off a couple copies, hope the boss doesn't notice, and then you mail them off to the 17 people that get them, and then they sort of pass them around, and it goes on and on like that.
It was the kind of thing where if you're lucky, maybe you'd see it in the back of a magazine somewhere.
Right.
Or in a catalog. Right. And you'd have to is this worth my couple bucks to try and get, depending on what it is, sight unseen?
Yeah, given that most of them would maybe have 4 issues and then immediately fold, you would send away your $3 and maybe you'd get something, maybe you wouldn't. Who knows?
But it's a neat idea, and you're updating it or rather introducing a new theme,
Right.
because from my limited experience in gaming, it's like you can only maybe come up with so many storylines or so many plots for your party if you're DMing and whatnot. And then one of the common things would be to like buy, or loan out like a mini adventure to run this mini campaign or a dungeon or whatever you may call it. And then these zines would come along and give additional ideas. It's like, well, here's something you could do instead, or something you do in addition to that. And some people, I would imagine, might be against the idea of like, look, aliens and UFOs don't go in my dungeons or my dragons, sir. This is incorrect.
Well, those people would be wrong.
It's like, excuse me, sir. Like, minotaurs are okay, but maybe aliens aren't. Like, why? What's the difference, really?
Well, no, I mean, they'd be wrong because Gary Gygax was a huge fan of this stuff, too.
Yeah.
You think about some of his early adventures. One of them was Expedition to Barrier Peak, which turns out not to be a dungeon that you're going through, but a crashed alien spaceship. Gygax was a fan of stuff like the Shaver Mystery, which is one of these sort of texts of early ufology that sort of underpins a lot of the stuff you see on Ancient Aliens and the like today.
Mm-hmm.
So this stuff is kind of woven into the bedrock of D&D. It's not highlighted as much, and the stuff that I'm highlighting is less of the B-movie aspect of it. So in What Happened at Wyvern Rock, you're not going to necessarily be, Klaxar the Barbarian is not going to be charging, the High Preceptor Philip aboard the mothership. Instead, I'm going after sort of all the weird stuff that happens in the really good X-Files episodes. So we're talking about things where stuff happens on the road that you just can't explain. And in a role-playing game, it's really hard to pull something like that off because everyone sitting around the table are so familiar with the rules. They're familiar with how the reality of the game that they're playing, how that works. And something like High Strangeness is just supposed to turn all of that on its head. So that's kind of what I'm going at with this whole the zine project here.
As far as the material that you're putting together, is this a compilation of stuff that you've been writing over time, or is this all fresh material that you've been, putting together recently just for this?
Well, when I first heard about this project back in November and I started planning stuff out, it started out in a different form when I was trying to write something kind of in-universe. And so I have a bunch of things about works where I've sort of recast quote-unquote actual alien encounters into a fantasy setting. But then I decided that I think it might be more fun if I do something where it's a little bit more interactive for players, or at least be able to give DMs a little bit more idea of here's something that you can do as a little diversion. As the party goes to quest up Mount Doom, maybe Frodo sees some lights in the sky and has some missing time. What happens there? Like that sort of wait, what type stuff is what I'm aiming at. So that for the zine, I'm breaking it down into 4 parts. The first part's going to be sort of an introduction to High Strangeness, where I go in sort of a history of the concept, talk about a little bit rambling nature of reality type stuff, because you can't really talk about this stuff unless you sound like you're completely insane and shouting at a bus stop. And then going into doing some encounter tables. I'm really focused in this first issue on liminal states. So that's the status of being between two things. And I think encounter tables are sort of the perfect liminal state type of experience, because it's usually something that your party would encounter when you're on the road, you're traveling somewhere. Do you run into something? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You don't know, but something might happen. And then I'm going to do a couple little adventure scenarios, or just kind of like quick one-off encounter type things. Again, based on quote-unquote actual UFO experiences. I had planned on doing something like the Hopkinsville Goblins, but those guys they're having a moment right now, the Goblins.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd be cashing in on that, but I thought they were awesome first before. And then followed up with, I think, the most recognizable part of High Strangeness, so the alien greys, and sort of break them down about how to use them in game, since I'm not trying to bind this zine to any particular rule set. I have to kind of keep things sort of light and generic. as much as I can. So for them, it'd be more like, okay, here are different creatures that you could try reskinning. Here are abilities that they have. Here are fun tricks that you can play. I remember back in the day growing up and on cutting my teeth on second ed and really enjoying those you could mail away and get books of traps, and here are these weird encounters and just stuff you can throw at your party. That's kind of what that stuff will be.
So one of the things that, like you just mentioned, is in your description, you're listing on the Kickstarter, is how you might have to make these things adaptable, because someone might want to play D&D, but someone else might be playing Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. And like, you can't put down a set rule stat for the D&D, and then Pathfinder people are like, oh, we can't use this. So it's how much knowledge of each like gaming format do you have to make something that's interchangeable like that?
Well, I think that a lot of fantasy role-playing games, they all stem back to D&D. I have a pretty good grounding there. I'm familiar with Pathfinder. I'm familiar with some of the other old-school rule games. And even some of the sort of the newer approach games like Dungeon World or something like that. I'm familiar enough that I can say, all right, here are the things to aim at. I'm not going to know exactly mechanically how to get you from A to B, but I can definitely tell you, it's, you just go down this road and you'll get there and you'll be fine.
Your idea for this, because in the past when we've talked about your carvings and your ink presses and the things that you've made, and you're a big fan of aliens and UFOs and other stuff like that. If you haven't already mentioned, like, is this something that you made it because you also want to play it, or have you been inserting this kind of stuff into your games already?
Well, the reason I'm doing this is because I have a lot of medieval people encountering aliens already carved.
Right.
So that makes it very, very easy. Because it's like, this is my first Kickstarter. It's also for sort of I'd say a low barrier to entry type of product, where it's a zine. Like I can format a pamphlet, I can send it out to Smart Print, I can get a thing made easily. I can't tell you how many other Kickstarter projects that I've backed over the years where it's, someone has a great idea, but their execution just it was just beyond their reach. So I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. And one of those things was being like, I already have a lot of imagery already made and ready to go. And then some of these other things are, variations of, rants that I have visited upon my wife late at night, God bless her, about like the nature of reality and what do the aliens really want. And she's like, okay, that's great. I'm going to go over here now. Okay, I'll see you later.
Because I was curious, because oftentimes when someone makes a thing, it's because they want that thing to be real. It's like, I want to play this game, but I want to use this. Well, that doesn't exist.
Guess I better make
time
it.
to make it.
Well, so back in this would have been like 20 years ago, back in college, a friend and I ran a pickup game of, I think, like a werewolf or something like that. And we had no idea that the guy who normally ran the game, he was out. So we're like, okay, fine, we'll just make up something. We just had the characters doing the normal thing, and then we just kind of looked at each other and said, okay, F it, aliens attack. And then everything kind of took a hard left turn. And I'm trying to sort of bring that sort of look of shock and surprise that I still remember from 20 years ago to people today. What I'm working with High Strangeness is a sort of a compounding sense of what you know about the world, be it the game world, the rule set, doesn't necessarily apply. And there's things above and beyond what's going on. So I really want to have players be able to say, like, what the heck was that type thing, which is surprisingly tricky. If you think about someone living in a fantasy game world, like say you are an innkeeper at ye old, adventuring dragon inn, you're going to be used to meeting like lizard people.
Yeah.
Like they might be there all the time, but they definitely come by. Little green men who live in the hills. Oh yeah, those are goblins. They steal your chickens. Like this isn't something that you're super afraid of or surprised by. You're wary of it and you watch out for these things. But the light that you see in the sky, that could just be the wizard going home for the night. Like you're aware of these things, so you're not going to be surprised by them. So how do you make things that are truly strange for a fantastic setting? which is I think a really interesting question that I'm having fun trying to bash out how all that works and what it looks like to both a character in the game world and a player sitting at the table.
This being, and we've mentioned it a couple times now, your first Kickstarter. Alex and I, we are not creative. We don't have anything to make, so we've never had our own Kickstarter. We've had a bunch of friends do their own, a bunch of people we've met through the show running Kickstarters. I'm curious about kind of the like your process when it was like, so, you know, you launched the Kickstarter, $1,000 goal. Within 24 hours, you're at over 75% of that goal. Like, what's going through your mind? Like, take us through, like, you know, when you launch it, are there nerves? Like, oh my, you know, what if it doesn't get funded? What was going through your mind when this launched and when you saw the success it was having?
Well, the nerves begin actually several weeks beforehand, because there are a lot of steps you have to do sort of behind the scenes to get things ready. You have to, you know, create your project page. You have to record a video, which is something that I was really hoping I could get out of. But, you know, I asked around and people were like, no, everything that I've ever backed always has a video. I don't necessarily watch it, but I want to know that someone put the work in to make a video. So I'm like, okay, now I have to learn how to make a video. So I have to learn how to do that. So all of that nervousness kind of starts really like a month ahead of time, where you really got to get your ducks in a row, sort of plan things out. I was lucky in that this is part of a larger Kickstarter initiative. So I would, you know, be part of a promotional effort on their part that I could just piggyback on. If I was just sort of busting out with this, just, you know, sight unseen, I'm not exactly sure how I would do that. So something that's really nice about this program is that their Kickstarter itself is lending a bunch of help. Then launch day comes, you refresh that page a whole lot, and again, you have a conversation with someone, you're looking them straight in the eye, and your phone just slides up by itself as you refresh the page again. I was actually at a wedding when I actually got funded the next day. And it took everything in my power not to run up to the groom in the middle of congratulations and be like, oh, and also, that's great for you, you know, made your life change and all that. But hey, you know, who just got funded? This guy, which wouldn't have been a good look. Then you have to start worrying about things like stretch goals. I have one stretch goal that I've put forward at 2,000 that we blew past very quickly. So now I'm nervous about adding more stretch goals, because that just means there's more stuff that I'll have to do. And I want to put a lot more work into making sure that I get something that I'm happy with into people's hands on time. So the first stretch goal that I ended up doing is a lot of that sort of in-universe stuff that I mentioned earlier, and have a kind of Mothman Prophecies style investigation by the part of a John Keel-like halfling who went to Wyvern Rock to try to figure out what's going on, and then, you know, had some weird encounters and stuff like that, which I think will be a fun thing that you'll be able to hand out to your players and say, you find this document, some of it might be real, some of it might not be, but here's some adventure threads you can go pull at. So that should be cool. My next stretch goal that I thought about doing was doing sort of a Appendix N list of sources and, you know, oh, here's good places to look, here are things to listen to, stuff to watch. But then I realized that I was putting that together anyways as I was making this thing, so I didn't see any reason to sort of hold it hostage for a certain amount of money. Knowing that I'm now at 3,000, I'm thinking about adding another one, but it's a little bit daunting. Like, I figure out what else I can add that people would want. If anything, it would probably be an actual physical guide to Wyvern Rock, because the way that I'm building this is I'm trying to keep Wyvern Rock itself as generic as possible. So you get something that you can just plop into wherever your campaign is, and it won't kind of mess up your maps. It's just a, you know, large town near a mountain, also near a plains, and maybe some forest, and then that's pretty much all you really need. You can slide that setting in wherever you want. But yeah, now that they've had a couple promotional emails about the like on the game's list or whatever, and they very nicely included me there as well. So really, I think that the best thing you can do if you're starting your Kickstarter is be extraordinarily lucky and launch at the exact right time. And I think Luke, I'm blanking on his last name, which is embarrassing, the guy who's the head of the Kickstarter games division, I think he also digs the idea of aliens versus wizards and stuff like that. So I'm getting a little help from there. But it's been great. I know that what I do when it comes to my carving, I always describe it as being a niche of a niche. And this is really a niche of a niche of a niche. Where it's the Venn diagram between people that are like role-playing games and people that like UFOs. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Like, I was pretty sure I was going to get funded. I didn't expect to get funded that quickly or make it to this level. So it's required a lot of thought and a lot of planning that I wish I did. So I think if I ever did this again, I probably will. I'm going to overplan a little bit just to make things, while the campaign is actually ongoing, go a little bit smoother.
Had you said you wanted to do more zines too?
I would love to be able to follow this up. Like, if I have something like 260 backers or something like that, and I think that's enough to say, like, hey, people might actually want to see a second issue of this, so it won't just be a one and done, which becomes a bit of a challenge in its own, where I don't want to put everything into the first one and then kind of have nothing left over for the sequel.
Right.
But I think the sequel will probably involve cryptids. So if you ever wanted to go into the woods and have your ranger try to powwow with Bigfoot, then I think that should be a fun time.
Encounter the fake Jersey Devil, the real Jersey Devil's over there. Get full Drew.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I figure might be a little challenging, is to say, like, well, do I need more stretch goals, or what should I hold on to for round two?
For next time, yeah.
And it's like, if there's so much demand, like, do you just say, well, if I worry it won't be successful, do I push all now? Or, like, if I'm holding back, are people backing now, like, not getting what they could in full?
Right.
And that's got to be a little stressful.
It is. And I've been learning a lot about the role-playing game sort of publishing industry as I do this. There's a site called Drive Through RPG that, if this works well enough but not so well that I want to keep printing it myself, I can start putting stuff up there. Or there's sites like DM's Guild, which also do, basically you pay for a PDF or something like that, which, I think I wouldn't put stuff out as, once a year or frequently or whatever, as I would imagine of doing if I keep going with this current project. But I still think that there's enough interest that I could still add stuff, put stuff out, or tack stuff on. If someone else is doing a role-playing game type product and they want to have an article about, here's what happens when the Mothman, kidnaps the king, then, like, I'm be more than happy to work on stuff like that.
I feel there's a really good chance for this to open up players and DM's imagination even more. Because as you're saying, like, the players all know the rules and the DM knows the rules, even if a lot of it's being made up. There's still, certain things of, like, you go to the dungeon, you fight through the mini bosses, you fight the big boss, then you get your treasure and you drink it away or it gets stolen by, you got to chase the rogue now or whatever. Whereas, like, now I want to play a game where every time anyone rolls a crit miss, they have to start over again.
Right.
you're fighting you're fighting some boss somewhere and you roll a 1, then you wake up back in the inn and you have to start the adventure.
Yeah, just like, what happened? Well, and everything happens and you keep going. You're like, that's kind of weird. One thing that I really want to do is encourage DMs to make copies of their players' character sheets when they're like 3rd level. And then if they make it up to being, 10th level or something, you have them go down a familiar road and then have an encounter where you hand out their old character sheets and say, guess what? You're recovering some memories tonight. And here's something that happened back in the past. And so, because, like, you think about it, if you're like a 10th level adventure, which means you're like halfway up the power scale, you should be like saving nations and stopping end of the world prophecies.
Right.
Traveling from place to place just isn't scary for you anymore. Like a little bandit who shows up, like you barely, like I think you could probably just ignore them and walk straight past, and there wasn't to be a whole lot for them to do about it.
Yeah.
But if you start doing these sort of flashback things that happened to you on this road before, suddenly that road is scary again because you don't know what's going to happen when you go down it, and it adds a little bit of that, thrill of not knowing what the heck's going on in your world to back to your game.
One thing that I really dig about this Kickstarter, besides the fact that it's a rad product, is you made it very easy to back it. Being there are 3 tiers that you can back.
Yep.
2 of those tiers will get you the zine, depending on what kind of what format you want it in. And if you want the physical product, if you got $10, you're gold. Like it's it's rare when you see it, like, sometimes you'll see oh man, like this is sweet new card game or something like that, and it's like, yeah, this, we're making it with premium quality everything, and all it costs is $78 plus shipping.
Right.
And sometimes it can turn people off to something that they might really want, whereas this $10, yeah, I got $10. Like, especially for something like, it's a reasonable Kickstarter. If my age is showing, that's fine. But you made it something that's very, like I said, not only is it a very intriguing product, but the price point seems to be, you can't argue it.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of Kickstarters they jump in, with both feet when it comes to adding different tiers and levels, and it's a really cool book about a bestiary of Appalachian cryptids. Oh, that's cool. I really want that book. That book costs $30. Okay, that seems reasonable. Oh, wait, no. There's a tier now that I can get a T-shirt that has a creature from the book on the T-shirt, but I have to pick which one. Like, it's like, I just want the thing. Just send me the thing. I like your idea. I want to give you money. Stop trying to talk me out of giving you money by giving me a headache.
Yeah.
No one needs an additional shot glass with your logo on it anymore. That's not
right.
Leave those ago. But I mean, if your zine comes in a mahogany box, like maybe.
Oh yes, yeah. Yeah. The primo level. So yeah, you can choose either you get the mahogany box, or I could actually afford to ship the zine to Europe.
Right.
Which I think that one of the other big challenges is just realizing how much international shipping really costs.
Yeah.
In the comments,
I talked to some people. Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
It's crazy. I talked to some folks who ran Kickstarters in the past, and they say, like, yeah, we thought we were doing great until we actually looked at how much it cost to mail something to France.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized that all of our international backers pretty much just took, the top off it because they didn't separate things out and have a different tier for international. I'm still trying to figure out how to provide the physical product outside of America.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the thought is unrelated. My family is going to be on vacation in England in August. I think I might just load a bunch of this stuff on the plane with me and then spend at least an afternoon of my vacation at the Royal Mail post office just sending stuff out that way. But I need to be able to be sure that I'm not going to, overcharge people for something or undercharge, and then suddenly I'm paying out of pocket a whole lot of money to mail stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these little things that you don't think about when you first have the idea of let's have a Kickstarter. I think it's very common for people to look at Kickstarter. If you just read up on it, like the first page of Google results about how to do a Kickstarter,
Mm-hmm.
all imagines like, okay, you'll obviously be making $100,000 off this and we'll be rich forever. Which it's not the case.
Uh-huh.
Where it's a lot of work, a lot of things you got to think through ahead of time if you want to be successful. Especially the whole risk of, even if you do succeed in your Kickstarter, you could actually end up failing because you didn't price things out
Mm-hmm.
correctly or provide enough stuff of what people actually want. So that's why, like I said, I decided to keep it as simple as humanly possible. 3 tiers. That's it.
Having an eBay store and shipping a lot of stuff on the eBay, it's even like eBay figures out the calculation for me when I sell something. And even then I still like choke when I see what the price comes up for international,
Mm-hmm.
which, even with like, the headache that might cause, it must be nice seeing people outside of North America that still want your product.
Oh yeah, yeah. I definitely I've had a couple of people send me messages saying like I would love to have this thing in my hand. I live in Poland. What can we do?
Yeah.
And like well we can figure something else out. If someone goes and backs me at the PDF level, which is the $5 one,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get the thing in your hand, and then I'll have more physical objects here. And then we could probably set something up, like run it through my Etsy, where I can have the real cost of shipping already factored in, and that
Mhm.
way, it maybe that is a good idea. Now that I'm thinking about it,
We did it.
offer a coupon code for anyone that gets the digital one, that you can knock that extra $5 off of the cost of the physical thing, and that way still get it. And all that. I'll look into that. That's really a good idea.
Currently, as it stands right now, we're a couple days out from the actual release of this, but so it'll probably be about maybe about 2 weeks left to go once this episode goes live. Currently sitting pretty at about $3,000 over your $1,000 goal. So congratulations on crushing the goal. So if this sounds like something that might interest you, if you're listening in, you can check out What Happened at Wyvern Rock on Kickstarter. It's created by Drew Meger. Also, Drew, if you wanted to take a second, obviously you do a lot more than just this Kickstarter. Where can people find the rest of your stuff?
You can find the rest of my stuff. I have an Etsy. It's just Corey Press. And you can also find my website at coreypress.com.
Excellent. Also, and follow him on. I've been a big Instagram follower for a couple of years now. Really interesting. Like you can actually see some of the the wood pressings getting, like when you peel it off and it shows unbelievable stuff.
Some people really really love those videos of just that first reveal.
Very satisfying. But as we kind of get low on time here, obviously. Thank you so much for coming on yet again.
Thank you for reaching out.
Absolutely. You are one of the most interesting people we've had the pleasure of talking with, and it's always a pleasure. Again, congratulations. I hope you smash through. Can't wait to see what's coming up next. With all the zines and stuff. It's just great. It's great stuff, man.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me back.
Awesome. Excellent. Yeah. So yeah, I believe that's going to do it. Thanks again, Drew, and hopefully we'll talk with you soon. All right. Thank you so much again to Drew for coming on. It's always great to talk to him. He is such a cool guy. We're going to jump right in because we're low on time because we spent so much time chatting with these guys. We're jumping right into our next segment. Check it out. And joining us now is Tanner Yarrow from Yarrow Studios. Tanner, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure if that's Alex or RJ speaking, but I think I'll figure out your voices as we go.
Yeah, that was me. That was JR. RJ works too.
JR, sorry. Yeah, JR and Alex. Okay.
To be fair, we met about 30 seconds ago.
We arranged this in 2 days. It's okay.
Yeah. And it's tough when you can't put a face to it.
Yeah. But we have a lot of fun things to talk about in a very short amount of time. I'm going to let Alex take this one away because he was the mastermind behind setting up this entire amazing episode because he found something neat and we decided to talk about it. So what are we doing today?
I have a quick commercial pitch, and it's just from what I've gleaned off of. I found this maybe 3 days ago, and I'll talk about how I found it later because it's kind of contestuous, I want to say. I'll get to that in a second.
Busting out the vocab words.
So
yeah, I'm excited to not only find out what that word means, but to find out how you used it.
So Tanner has come up with a new gaming device to help role-playing games, D&D games, Pathfinder, all these things. And if you've ever played D&D, one friend either has the giant map that takes up the entire table, and you got to draw out your single lines to make your rooms, or they don't give you a map at all, and you have to imagine the entire thing in your head. Both of these things work.
Or they have the crazy intricate handcrafted pieces,
the 3D models.
The 3D models, and yep.
And I come from a background of playing HeroClix way back in the day, and I always need my map squares. I got my map out. I see the squares, the trains just printed on the map. I'm looking down on a building, or the Baxter Building, or the what's Superman's newspaper?
Daily Planet.
Daily Planet. Thank
Nailed
you.
it.
I was gonna say Planet Express, but I don't think HeroClix ever made Futurama clicks.
They didn't.
They should.
I
feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Bender would have super strength, that's for sure. And
Fry would be one click and dead.
I mean, it's not wrong.
See, already we haven't mentioned HeroClix yet, but we're on the same page.
Yep, he gets it.
And so you're running a Kickstarter. By the time this episode goes up, we'll have maybe about 20 days left, and it's a big old giant book of maps to play your RPGs on, and I think it's awesome. We also come from a strong comic background, and like we've talked about videos in the past where the difference between the Marvel Omnibus and the DC Absolute editions. And as you open them, if the gutter isn't correct,
gutter loss.
The gutter law. Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
And it's in the video of like how the page, you open the page, so you get like a flat spine. It's really nice. All these things come together. So you have like, you just bring this book to your game, and you've got a bunch of different maps to choose from to put your players on, to put your minis on. And it's like, you don't have to draw everything out yourself. It's already there.
Yeah, it really solves a number of problems. Again, I am not against any ways to play D&D. I think as long as you're playing RPGs, tabletop RPGs, like that's good. And so there's no wrong way to do it, whether it's the theater of the mind, they say, for like when you just are playing up in your head, or drawing your maps out. This was just a quick solution for, so what happens in my parties mostly is I will plan out this awesome campaign for my D&D groups, and I'll go to Kinko's and I'll print out these 3-foot by 4-foot maps of the dungeon that they're going to crawl in that session. And when we sit down at the table, you know, they decide they would rather get in a bar fight and steal a boat. And I end up spending like $25 at Kinko's with this map that I'm not going to end up using. And as a DM, you always want to make sure that your players feel like they're the ones telling the story, and you're just there to facilitate that. A lot of times it's easy to get stuck shoehorning the situation how you've written the story as the DM, and that just means you have party members that aren't too happy.
When I recall back when we talked to Jeff Callos. Jeff
from Pin Arcade?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Callos. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how I'd ever be able to DM in front of a crowd, because I would want the party to like turn left down this dungeon, and then you just keep turning right. And I'm like, what do I do? And Jeff's like, a good DM just puts what you want on the left instead. It's you just move
it's on the
you
left
just
now.
move the destination so they encounter anyway.
Right. So there's definitely still some tricks for the DM, but there's a big difference in saying we're going to steal the boat and you have to go through this cave system that I've pre-printed and planned for you guys.
Yeah.
I didn't design a boat, you guys.
Looks like a cave.
The boat looks like a cave. It's a cave boat.
It's a perfect cave boat.
Cave boat. Not included in this book, cave boat. Maybe 2.
Volume 2, or maybe that's a stretch goal. But so we're kind of touching on the genesis of this, you know, going to Kinko's and then not being able to use the beautiful map that you came up with. What's your background? You've been playing. It seems like you're a big tabletop player. I imagine this is something that you've thought passionately, you know, about for a while now, or at least it seems that way.
Yeah, you know, I wish that I'd gotten into it longer. I've probably been playing for 3 years, but it's become my new religion.
That's pretty much how it works.
And I just dove in and bought all the books and all the minis and everything, and then I got stuck DMing every single game because I was the one that was putting the parties together. And which I'm sure a lot of your listeners will have some sympathy there, because getting a D&D group together is just as rare as I don't know.
It's herding cats. It's herding cats.
Yeah, it's herding cats. And the other problem is that I mean, you have, again, all these other solutions for DMing, but sometimes you don't have time to go print something off. And let's say you carry all your terrain around and you want them, the terrain's just a dungeon, right? Maybe you have some bar pieces, but the book was created so that you keep it in your back pocket in case your party decides to get into a brawl fight, or for some reason thinks the NPC that you created to further the story that is so unimportant. So you kill them off and your party decides to go dig their body up at the crypt for who knows why. These are true stories and why the maps are included in the book. But you'll be able to just, okay, you know what? Fine. We're going to the crypt. I'm going to have a million zombies there. You slam the book down on the table, open up to page 6. You got a full-blown crypt and graveyard, and you're ready to go.
I don't know if you're explaining this in the opposite fashion I would have. Because I'd be like, I'm planning an entire game around page 9, whatever page 9 would be. And so
so you're exactly right. It definitely goes both ways. There's tons of super creative and cool maps included, like a hedge maze. I don't think you'd ever be in a situation as a DM where
funny thing. We were in a hedge maze.
We were in a hedge maze. Yep.
My character died there.
Yeah, so there you go. So like I think a lot of people will get the book the first day and flip through it and think, oh my gosh, we have to do something here, and we have to do something here, and we have to do something here. That's inevitable for sure. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. I like how you've maintained like I don't want to say old, but like just things that other maps have anyway, with like the marker and the dry erase kind of, or however the markers that would use for it. So like if you want to draw out something onto it, like that's still a good idea.
Yeah, and the back of the book has a couple just kind of blank maps, like grass and just like dungeon floor, and you can sit there and you can still draw your dungeon out. One of the coolest pieces with the book, though, has got to be the sticker packs.
Oh yeah,
so
I'm a fan
of those.
I was gonna get into that eventually, but I'm cool with bringing it up now because that just. Like when Alex pitched this to me and like he was telling me about it, we met at the comic book shop today. It was a meet cute. We weren't even expecting to meet each other there. Yeah. And he was describing it to me, and like he mentioned it, he's like, those like peelable, like reusable stickers, and I'm like, wait, from like when you're a kid and you're like building a monster truck,
the color forms,
and you put the flames on it, and you put the giant engine on the front, and then like that immediately, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sold. That's great. That's fantastic, because it adds like such a layer of customization. That's the word.
Mm-hmm. You did it.
Yeah,
I almost said customizability.
I wish that I got the idea from Flames for a Monster Truck. I grew up with sisters, and so I grew up putting dresses on Barbie dolls with the Static Cling stickers, and I'd be lying if I said that's not exactly where the idea came from.
Well, hey, I'm not judging.
I was actually at a comic book shop and I kind of pitched it as a joke, and I was like, what if there was like static cling stickers, like plastic stickers that you could throw down, and it was fire hazards and spell effects, and I was kind of laughing, and the guys at the comic book shop were like, yes, that's perfect, do that.
I mean, it's
I could picture those guys as you voiced them.
It's brilliant in the fact like it seems so simple, but it's also like, of course.
And even like the variety that you've pitched, so from just what I've seen on this page, I'm sure there's more once if someone decides to get the book or get those extra sticker packs. It's like, yeah, well, I want the chair and the bar to be here, and I want the table to be there, and maybe this might be stickers that are movable, but also like, so you have a wizard in your party, and now I'm going to add my spell effects. And it's like, I wouldn't have thought to do both of these things. Like this, don't go over there because there's like a wormhole or, dark energy or some shit like that.
Yeah, you got like the druids can cast thorns, right? And the ground becomes difficult terrain. And if creatures are caught on it, they can't move for a number of turns. And so I wanted to be able to throw down a sticker of thorns and not only say... what the coolest part is the stickers are printed on this clear plastic, so when you put them down, you almost can't tell that there's a sticker there. It just looks like it's part of the map. You nailed it right on the head. That's exactly what they're for.
There was a issue of, I think it was Action Comics, late 90s.
I believe so. I think I know what you're talking about.
I have two of them. The entire cover is all color form where you could stick on Superman fighting Lobo. And you could move their arms for how they're fighting and just make your own cover. And I got those because there's not many like those. And so that's part of the reason I was so intrigued by this. The The thing that I'm slightly disappointed in myself in is how in
this one thing.
This is the one. Just the one. In the past, like between us and to friends, we've talked about how like we don't care about advertising on Facebook. We're not going to do it, and it's not a thing. I clicked on this because it was a sponsored post. It worked. As much as I hate it, and I think it's never going to work, and it's not going to get us what we want to get it.
It popped up.
This was a sponsored post.
Got
I
your
clicked on
attention.
it. Here it is. I'm probably going to buy the book. We're talking to the creator right now. It worked.
So that's actually pretty funny that you say that, because I feel the same exact way. And I was talking to my family just the other day, and I just said, have any of you ever clicked on an ad on Facebook and bought something? I never have.
Yep.
Ever.
I just said this to a friend of mine who's like he's trying to become marketing guy, and he's sharing inspirational marketing posts, and he shared like some video of some dude giving a talk, and all that dude was saying was like, buy Facebook ads. And I'm like, this guy's an idiot.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
What's that dude? That's the dude. And I'm like, he owns stock in Facebook. Why? No, I'm not going to do this. I just clicked on it, and here we are.
I'm sure a lot of your listeners everybody in this world, the comic gaming world, has an idea, right? And Kickstarter is such an awesome way for new creators to launch their project and idea. So here's some very valuable information, I think, for your listeners of how I was able to pull that off. If I actually can pull up my statistics on the Facebook ads real quick on my computer. And so I actually use this company. Okay, so let's go back like 5 years.
Sure.
So if you go back 5 years and you market on Kickstarter, you used to be able to go in and click and say, okay, I want to market to people that like D&D. And Facebook knew who liked D&D. And so it would allow you to create these little marketing pools, and you could market directly to them. They realized that was way too valuable for what they were offering.
Right.
And I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago or even longer than that. But they switched it over to where you have to bring your own audiences in and train Facebook's algorithms. So what you have to do is you have to upload your own email lists and then tell Facebook, this is an email list of people that kind of like board games, and that's how Facebook will choose how to market. And the bigger your lists, the better opportunity that you have. So my piece of advice, if you're thinking about doing a Kickstarter, I partnered with BackerKit from the very beginning. Are you guys familiar with BackerKit?
Yep. I've backed a couple Kickstarters that have used them. They've actually made it, at least from the buyer's end, pretty simple. Like filling out surveys and making sure that you know what you're getting and you're getting all the right stuff.
So when people say BackerKit does my marketing, they don't understand right away, because BackerKit is a survey service for Kickstarters. So Kickstarter surveys are really poor, and all they ask you is, JR, you backed this book. What's your address? That's the survey.
Yep.
So BackerKit saw that, and they came in and said, well, JR, what's your address? And would you also like to buy another book? And can we interest you in this and this and this and this? And they created such a value add to people that run Kickstarter campaigns that everybody under the sun used them over the past couple of years. So it's called a pledge manager. What BackerKit realized recently is that they have single-handedly collected probably the biggest repository outside of Kickstarter themselves of emails for Kickstarter backers. So now what they can do is they've recently started to help campaigns with their marketing, because they can now say, okay, you want to sell a book to D&D people. Well, we have millions of emails for people that like games, period.
Right.
And we can narrow it down further and get you millions of emails for people that like tabletop RPGs. But we can take that a step further and say people that like tabletop RPGs that backed books on Kickstarter in the last year, here's 100,000 emails that generate for Facebook. So then when they market Facebook, I'm spending $580 a day and averaging well over 10,000 in pledges.
Damn.
So that explains why you're.
So that was like the fire hydrant dump and of valuable information as to why Facebook ads actually kind of work.
I mean, whatever you're doing, the evidence is there. Something seems to be working. Currently, you initially had started the campaign with a $10,000 goal. Currently, as it stands today, obviously this episode is going to be released in a couple days, but as of right now, you still have 23 days to go. So the campaign's still in its relative infancy. You've raised $145,262 with over 2,700 backers, which seems to be 145,345. It just went up again.
It just went up again. Yeah, I was gonna say I have it open.
But
I'm sorry. I just get excited because it's obviously doing way better than I ever expected it to.
Good for you.
I mean, did you ever anticipate this level of success with it? I mean, it's clearly a really rad product, but were you ever like, we're talking six figures now. Is that really good news to you? Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, a lot. I don't want people to get the wrong idea that I'm in over my head. So. With our other products, I've started multiple one toy company that has two toys coming out that maybe we can do an interview a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
I can send you some pictures on it, but it's semi top secret, but we'll definitely talk about it on a later show.
Mm-hmm.
But licensed them with Spin Master and Goliath and handled all the manufacturing side of it. So where the big numbers are coming, like, it is a little overwhelming in that I'm having to manage comments and I'm making simple mistakes on spelling and people correct me on duplicate pledge levels, which is okay, which I'm able to do. But I mean, pulling the trigger on getting these books made and having the quality just be amazingly outstanding is where I think my skill set resides. And I'm learning all the business stuff as I go.
I mean, for what it's worth, like, there's been 14 updates so far. It seems like you've been really transparent in the comments, responding to people who have questions and concerns. I mean, it seems to be a very active. I mean, you might even, like, I know some campaigns will have to like hire a PR person to manage their comments. But the fact that are you a one-man crew?
I am a one-man crew, and this last week has felt like 6 months for me.
I can't even imagine.
Now you're stuck doing interviews.
Yeah, you're doing interviews with a bunch of schmucks.
Yeah, no, this is such a good break for me. I obviously surround myself with people who are amazing and smarter than me. I did an update with the guy helping me with manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not alone in that in this, but I am as far as the Kickstarter and the ideation and the product creation is concerned. But I'm making sure to bring in the best possible people. I've partnered with 2 fulfillment centers. As soon as China gets back from their Chinese New Year, which they probably will by the time this airs,
right?
I'm probably going to pull the trigger on the books unless we can come up with some other stretch goals that maybe won't set manufacturing back. That's the other thing that has blown my mind is like I was thinking, okay, maybe we hit 50, 60K. And so I had all these awesome stretch goals that we literally did in the first 3 days. And I don't want scope creep to come up where you just, you promise too much. And so it has to get to a point where I say, okay, this is the book. It's as awesome as we're going to make it. Mm-hmm. There's no more stretch goals as far as making this book because I still want to deliver quickly and get it in your hands. I hate waiting. Amazon 2-day delivery has absolutely wrecked my perception of time.
So have you had any trouble making new stretch goals? Because I see if you thought you were going to top out about 100K and now you're like, oh no, I've got to do something for 180. Let's push it up to 250. See if we could do something there.
Oh, so my community, my backers are super awesome. They've made some awesome suggestions. I got a couple things in my back pocket. The hard thing was they wanted me to go super quick.
Right.
And if they're listening, I love you all. This is such an amazing product because of you, but there's a lot of pressure to continue to have stretch goals and things that people can work towards. But they've given me this awesome backlog of simple quality of life additions that I'm willing to eat some of the cost on to make a better product when everybody's out there sharing it like it's their day job. So getting a better finish on the cover of the book, making it more resistant and upgrading the paper quality are the current stretch goals. And I'm even thinking of doing, but maybe by the time this airs, there's more stretch goals for for more sticker packs or other things. People want all sorts of other stickers to add, and those just take, again, more time, but those won't add time to the production of the book. That's a separate SKU, separate piece. So
I'm not sure if I could tell when it became like a grumpy old man kind of thing, like, something with more stickers.
Yeah, I mean, it's you when you're by yourself, it's easy to get caught venting to anybody that will listen.
So I'm kind of curious if how many ideas you've gotten on your own just from what you want to make, or if you've gotten ideas from other Kickstarters, because a thing I've seen, I haven't seen a lot, like maybe 3 out of the like 10 Kickstarters I'll view will also include the social stretch goals, where it's like, we want X numbers of followers on Facebook, we want this many retweets, we want this many this. And so you've got that here between Twitter followers and I'll the tweeting to Critical Role, which, respectful, I get it. And I think one of the posts, I think it was in the Instagram of the Spider-Man meme, with like Spider-Man being Matt Mercer and and
Miles.
Thank you. Miles being like learning how to DM by just watching Matt Mercer.
No, that post blew up. That was like, I hope I don't bother them. Obviously they're celebrities, but I feel like they don't really care about their social media, and the more people they can get to look at their social media, the better. So I just see it as free marketing for them, I hope.
From what I can tell, like I don't follow as much as some of our friends do. I know Brett, I think, watches a lot more than I do. But I've also followed a cosplayer who does a really great jester. And it's just amazing because she'll do songs in the voice with the accent. It's pretty crazy. And they're always psyched on that. And the offer to play on the free maps and then like review it and say how it went, because there's 2 downloadable maps. And like even those are social stretch goals, which that's a neat idea, because how many people are willing to give away their product that they want money for?
Yeah, so that was so I do have a couple, like I guess what would the word be? Not board of directors, but like council. What would you call that?
We have a board.
Your legal counsel.
I have some much more advanced in age old men and women that advise. Okay, my advisory board was like, you can't give these maps away for free. And that's what's fun about being the only guy in charge, because I can.
True.
But yeah, like you said, so the social stretch goals in other Kickstarters I've been involved in the past, I've always wanted to do them. But if it wasn't like a money stretch goal, then they weren't interested.
Yeah.
And the other Kickstarter that I was involved in had 7 shares over 30 days. Because we had the Facebook social stretch goal in the first 4 days, it was shared on Facebook over 200 times. And so that was just like, I think, a huge thing that helped get the word out. And so I think social stretch goals are awesome. I did a horrible job of explaining what I wanted people to do. But we figured it out, and I think it's only helped for sure.
It seems like, you're very willing to learn and adapt as this goes on. And like we've discussed, it's already, I mean, only, there's still 23 days left to go in this. It seems like the sky's the limit for this book. Before we were already quickly running out of time here because we are doing a shorter segment, but a couple more things. I wanted to get into the design. Did you design the pages here? Are you the artist? Did you hire outside artists to work on these? How did this come to be?
So it's a little of both. I did a lot of the art in the book. I worked with other artists to create a lot of the assets. They'll be credited in the book as well, and I would invite people to check them out. And so, yeah, but the design direction was 100% on me. I would draw the maps in pencil and say, when I needed help, when it was getting time to come up with some cool things and I was feeling kind of artist block, I'd just say, hey, help me with this, and what do you think should go here? And they were really awesome at taking those pencil sketches and kind of bringing the vision to life.
I was wondering, like, at what point there's like the internal battle of like, I just want to design the sheriff's jail cell, and I don't really want to update the comments anymore. And like,
Yeah.
I'm not really in the mood to send more emails. Like, can I just make a picture again?
No, I definitely feel that, but I love the community, and I love just what I've learned from kind of a PR standpoint, where transparency is just best. I remember when our campaign first launched, there was some discrepancies in the rewards, and I just did an update and was responding to comments like, you know what, I totally screwed up, but I'm going to do whatever I can to fix it. And everybody was so awesome. They were like, oh, hey, no worries. Like, you do you, like, we're here to support you. And I've had other experiences on other projects where, it's a lot easier to say, oh, I don't know what happened. I think it was an intern, and people just get super mad. And so I think just like being open and honest and transparent and just saying, you know what, I totally screwed up. Thanks for catching that. Like, feel like, please continue to find discrepancies. Let's make this the best that we can, has allowed me to stay sane during this process.
Have you or people or like friends of yours play tested every map, or is it like, this will probably be fun?
So I've play tested on all the maps multiple times. I have like 3 sample books, production samples that I use in the video and in the photography, and played on all of them. Like they're all awesome. They're all very different, but I don't have a lot of close friends that play D&D.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish my friends liked it, but I'll say, hey, let's play D&D this weekend, and they're like, oh, but the jazz game is on.
That's a shame.
It's okay. I for a while I didn't even share it on my Facebook because it's just different than the friends that I hang out with. It's like 2 lives.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not ashamed. In my front entryway, I have a 6-foot tall painting of the Dark Knight Returns riding his horse, followed by the goons.
Wow. Respect.
If you remember that frame from Dark Knight.
Yep.
Frank Miller on his horse, that spoke to me on a spiritual level, and so it's hanging in my front entryway.
How big is it? Did you say 6 feet?
6 feet. So there's this really cool place in China, around Shenzhen or maybe Guangzhou. It's called Artist Valley or Artist Village.
Uh-huh.
And there's just tons of artists that are all out, and it's like a street market, but they're all painting. And I showed him a picture of the frame in the comic, and then like 6 months later, I had a 6-foot tall oil painting recreation of the Dark Knight for like $400. So it's so awesome.
Huh.
And my fiance hates it. She's moving into my house. She's like, that is disappearing. I was like, yeah, disappearing into our bedroom above our bed.
It needs to be admired.
Well, before Jack closes us out, I think we've made a new friend.
Yeah.
We both still know what HeroClix was. We're into cool gaming stuff. I have a wall mural of Lobo's face behind me on my wall. So
There's a mutual mural understanding going on. And I'm down with it. I'm digging it.
And we learned a lot too. So thank you for sharing all your knowledge. This was for the immersive.
Oh no!
I messed it up.
Take 2.
The immersive battle maps for tabletop role playing games.
Currently on Kickstarter
from Yarrow Studios, 2 R's.
Tanner, before we wrap up here, this was the fastest half hour in the history of time. Is there anything else that like, do you have work anywhere that people can find? Instagram that you want people to follow? Where can people go to see your stuff?
So it's just right now it's the Kickstarter. I did the whole thing for 5 years working for other companies and for other people. This is the first one that's just mine. And I would even add, I wouldn't change the Immersive Battle Maps. I would leave that in just to show everybody listening that the one thing I've learned is it is okay to make mistakes, and nobody's perfect. And at some point, you just got to pull the trigger on that crazy idea that you have, and you never know. Like the other thing too that I would add is like, this is my maybe 20th project that I've not launched on Kickstarter, but just tried to launch in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it took 20 to get to this point. And so if any of your listeners or you guys are sitting on an idea, just do it and get your first 20 out of the way so you can finally hit it, you know?
Get your own immersive battle book.
Get your own immersive battle book.
Wasn't it one of the co-founders of PayPal that wasn't Elon Musk, who's like, we had 7 failed companies before we got to PayPal?
Peter Thiel.
Ugh. Sorry.
It's like,
was that not the correct guy?
It's such true advice. I meet with people all the time that are like, here's my idea. I want to quit my job and go do this. and the advice I wish I could give them, but you can't, because how do you tell somebody that wants to quit their job? But the advice I wish I could give them is just do it and don't worry about it failing, because you just got to know that you can do it. And whether it fails or succeeds, you know that you did one thing. You made something that was cool to you. Even if it's only cool to you, that's one thing. The one thing you take away from that is that you know that you have the ability to finish something. I think that's super important.
This has been great.
It really has, and it makes me sad that unfortunately we are out of time. But hey, you mentioned toys. Maybe doing an episode later in the future. I think that would be fantastic. Tanner, thank you so much for coming on.
No,
Congratulations on the Kickstarter success. Still plenty of time to go. Plenty of time for everyone to go and back the project. $145,516 right now. Unbelievable. Congratulations.
Unbelievable. Thank you. And then I'll when we hop off this, I'll send you guys a picture of the product, the new toy that we should totally do another
Secrets.
meeting on. It's totally up our alley. Like, you guys are gonna flip. So
Excellent. That everyone else will just have to be jealous of the insider info we're about to get. But again, Tanner, congratulations. Thank you so much for coming on. I think that's going to do it. Thanks again.
awesome. Thank you, JR. Thank you, Alex. Great time. We'll do this again for sure.
Excellent. All right. And thanks again to Tanner for coming on, obviously, and Drew as well. This episode was both informative and expensive.
And it's there's times where it's a little frustrating trying to pull guests together, and we managed to do 2 this week.
And they were both great.
It was a lot of fun.
And they were both very patient with us as we begged them. But
I hope our listeners had as much fun listening to us talk to them as we did.
they're very, very cool people. I'm anxious to support whatever they make in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also like, can't wait to see what else they make, how their Kickstarter is complete and all that stuff. But we are out of time, so we hope you all enjoyed. Until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And this has been episode 361.